guys, welcome back to Melon's Health and Massage Tips. I'm Helen. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be taking a look at some upper back massage techniques that you can do for someone to help alleviate the stress and pain all through the upper back and shoulder area. So here's the tools, a couple tools that we're going to be using this time, and if you saw my last video, you saw them there too. I use them on the hand and forearm. Today we're going to be using them on the upper back and shoulders. So let's get to it. So as you can see, I'm working on a massage chair. However, you can do this on any other chair. You just want the person to be facing the wrong way on the chair, so put their legs around the back. Just have them get comfortable. You can put a pillow on the top so that they can lean their head on it, and you just kind of make it comfortable for what you have. You can either also do this with the person sitting in front of you. You can do some of these techniques with the person sitting in front of you if you're sitting on the couch, or you can have them if you're sitting on your bed, certain things like that. But I like to start with what's called the cat's paw, and you just kind of paw like a cat down both sides of the back. Then you can go back up to the top, and you can squeeze the tops of the shoulders. Now you don't want to start with too much pressure, because we're going to ease into it. You want to warm up the tissues before you get a little bit deeper. Now here, I've warmed up the tops of the shoulders, so I'm going to get in a little bit more. Again, I'm still not going full pressure. You still want to keep warming it up a little bit. That's the key. Slow and steady wins the race here. Once you find a couple of knots, you can work them a little bit, get the blood moving to them. Make sure you're using steady pressure, you're not going too deep, you don't want to make the person wince. So you just kind of work that out for a few minutes or a couple minutes until you feel like it's loosening up, or until the person tells you that it's a little bit looser, that it doesn't hurt quite so much. Now I also like to go along the whole spine. Now I'm just putting my thumbs together on very close to the spine, not on the spine. You can feel where the bones are, and you just kind of go all the way down the back, right close to the spine. Again, not a ton of pressure. You're just kind of trying to get the blood moving. Now you might find some ticklish spots in the lower back. It's totally normal. That just means that there's some extra tension there, and that's what we're trying to work out. Now I also like to use a little bit broader of pressure with the palm of my hand, and that just makes it a little bit less painful if you have a really tense area on somebody. You don't necessarily want to use the tips of your fingers the entire time. Getting that broad pressure just makes it feel so much better, less specialized, less localized pain. And again, it brings in the blood. Now here I'm going back to the other side, doing the same thing along the other side. I go all around the scapula, or the shoulder blade, as it's also called. Now she had a few extra knots or trigger points on her right side, so we stayed there a little bit extra time. And again, I'm just kind of using some gentle pressure and working around that shoulder blade bone. A lot of tension gets stuck there because we work with our arms forward. Everything is in front of us. So those muscles get pulled, and they get pulled to be tight and longer than they should be. So they're working extra hard to keep our backs, our shoulders, and everything upright. So those back muscles tend to get really tight. And a lot of people experience burning pain or tingling in their upper back. And that's because that blood flow gets cut off, those nerves get pulled, everything gets pulled. So you can also use your palm to go down to the lower back. That again just makes it hurt a little bit less. And we definitely found a couple of big knots in the lower back here. Now I like to go up and put a little bit of my body weight on the shoulder. And you don't want to put all your body weight, but it just kind of helps save your hands. So if you notice that your hands get really tired really quickly when you're doing this, try using your elbow or your forearm, and it helps just save your hands. a little bit of rotation on my arm, just kind of gets in there a little bit. And again, this is after we've already warmed up the tissue, so I can use a little bit more pressure because everything is warmed up. There's nice blood flow going. Movement in the arm is great while you're doing this as well, because a lot of people, their shoulder blades or their scapulas get stuck. And you want to add that movement because then it just tells those muscles, hey, we do move. We can do this. We can move around. We can do what we need to. Now, after I do a little bit more intense work, I like to go back and do some calming strokes. Now, that can be the broad strokes that I'm doing. That can be just touching lightly, going over it again. But I like to do that because it helps kind of calm everything down after you may have hurt a little bit. Now here I am using a couple of tools. I'm using the bigger ball on that same tool that we talked about in the last video, and I'm just going and finding some of those knots. A lot of them are right at the top of the scapula, and you'll be able to feel it. You know where your tension is, right? So if you can feel it, then you can find those knots with that nice tool and kind of sit on it. That also will save your hands. It'll save your thumbs, your fingertips. That's what tools are great for, especially if you're using them on somebody else. They just kind of help. So you can go all the way down the spine, you can go around the scapula, you can slide it like I kind of said in the arm video, hand video. You can go along both sides of the spine at once. Now again, you might find some ticklish spots with that down in the lower back, and that's totally normal. It says it's just tension. It's very common to have ticklish spots right there. And you can go along the top of the shoulder, and you can even get it up into your neck. I would suggest using the smaller nodules on there to go up into the neck, just because there's a little bit less space. And again, you can find those knots. You can find them pretty much anywhere on the body. Even right up into the base of the skull, you have those trigger points, those knots that cause headaches, tension, just pressure. Most people have them. And make sure if you have someone with long hair, you either have them tie their hair up or you just move it out of the way as needed. But make sure you're not pulling their hair, because people don't generally like that while getting a massage. But I'm not one to judge. Again, I'm just doing the same thing on the other side. We found a good spot right there. I like to sit on it for a couple seconds, take a couple deep breaths. That usually helps relax those spots and get rid of those trigger points. Breathing is very important. You need oxygen into your muscles in order for them to relax. So now I'm going to be using the other tool that we had, or that I showed in the last arm video. And we can do the same thing, kind of. So basically you're just finding those spots and maybe spreading them out, or kind of just working them out in a different way. You can find what works best for you. And again, I'm going kind of right along the spine. You want to be careful not to hit the spine, because it will hurt, and it hurts a lot. If anybody's ever had something hit their spine, you will know what I'm talking about. It hurts. And again, with this one, you can also go up into the neck. Right here, I'm at the base of the skull, just putting some nice even pressure. You don't want to go too deep, especially with a tool like that. It can just cause pain rather than feel good. But those muscles along the neck there, they definitely cause a lot of headaches. So with this one, I'm going to use that on both sides of the skull at the same time, right on each side of the spine, because you have kind of mirror trigger points on each side. And that is caused by forward head posture. And most people have forward head posture, and that causes extra strain and tension on the neck. Now, if you don't have any of these tools, you can definitely just use your hands. You can use your forearms, your fingers, your thumbs, but just be careful about how you're applying that pressure so that you're not hurting your hands or your body. If you can, use your forearm and use that counterweight, that body weight. That's what's going to really help save you. And again, I found a nice trigger point. You can spend some extra time anywhere you feel like whoever you're working on needs it, or wherever they say, oh, that right there, just get right there. Spend some extra time there. They'll really appreciate it. Now I'm just squeezing the top of the shoulder. That nice, keep your fingers together. We're not pinching, we're just squeezing. You can use the palm of your hand again, along the top of that shoulder blade, along the sides. And again, that just feels really nice. It's a nice calming stroke because it's not what I like to call pokey deep. It's more broad. Now I like to alternate pulling. So slight pulling motion, it just helps kind of loosen up that muscle, break up the tissue. If there's any scar tissue in there, it's a good way to help get rid of it. If you try it on somebody, I guarantee it will feel pretty good. And again, you don't want to go too deep or too hard because then it won't feel good. Sometimes I like to do just small circles or kind of just some friction on the top there where the big knots happen. You want to brace with one hand because otherwise it will just move all over. You need to brace it, and then you can do some little friction motions. That's just back and forth. You can do cross fiber friction. That just means you're going the opposite direction or kind of perpendicular to the fibers, the muscle fibers. And you can feel the direction that the muscles go if you just kind of pay attention. You can also do some little squeezing down the shoulders and down the upper arms. Now I'm just going up into the neck. I'm just going to apply some even pressure on both sides. You can do little circles, you can squeeze a little bit. Just make sure you're checking in too, to make sure you're not using too much pressure or if they need any more pressure. And then you can come up and scoop the head and kind of pull. That just allows some extra space at the base of the skull. Now it's probably going to be pretty tender for most people right here because again, that's just where a lot of people's headaches or migraines come from if you get tension headaches or migraines. I just like to pull and kind of hold for a few seconds, and it just feels really lovely. You can do some little circles down the neck, some gentle circles. You can go along the spine, in the cervical spine, which is the neck. You can just kind of go along those muscles. And just make sure that whoever you're working on keeps breathing. If they stop breathing, then you're not getting oxygen to your muscles, and that's not going to help you relax. You can just do some gentle circles down the neck again. And I also like to kind of end with a nice calming stroke. You can do the cat paw again down the back and just some nice gentle long strokes. And it kind of helps to wrap everything up and lets everybody know, hey, I'm done, start waking up, and it just kind of calms everything down again. So now I want to show you guys just a couple of quick stretches that you can do throughout the day. I generally tell people to do them 2-3 times a day depending on how often you're able to. They're really easy, but they're for your neck and shoulder area, and it just really helps relieve tension and stress, and just if you have headaches, migraines, if you just feel like your shoulders are way up here being earrings, it just really helps alleviate all of that. So we'll get into the first one. So what you're going to do, they're actually basically the same. For what you're going to do was whatever side you're stretching, I'm going to stretch my right side. You take that arm, you either sit on it. If you're sitting in a chair, you can grab the bottom of the chair or place your arm behind your back. Just whatever is going to be the most comfortable for you. And you're going to take your other hand and gently pull your head to that side. So you're going to the opposite side of the side that you're stretching. So I'm pulling my head to the left. You just give it a nice big stretch, hold for about 20-30 seconds or a few really nice deep breaths. Then you slowly release. You can turn your head slightly and do nose to armpit. So the same thing, you're just going to grab kind of the back of your head and pull gently down. The same thing, you're just going to hold for 20 to 30 seconds or a few really deep breaths. And just those simple stretches can create a lot of difference. You'll be able to tell within a few days to a week that your stress or your tension level has been reduced. Look in the description down below for links, Amazon links to these two tools that we used last video and this video. They're very versatile tools. I suggest you get something to help. Other than that, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also to follow me on all my social media. There's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I hope to see you next time.